Hello, my name's Roisin, and this is all your fault. Hello friends, and welcome to my February... Why can't I say the word February? Hello friends, and welcome to my February reading challenge. This month I decided to do something kind to myself and just read books that you guys have recommended to me. Hopefully after a year and a bit of doing these videos you have a reasonable understanding of my taste, and so I'm going to test that and see how well my videos have represented what I like and how well you know my taste now, and read 5 books that have been recommended to me over the course of the last year. So I went through all my comments and I listed out every single book recommendation I got over 2020. There were 39 different recommendations. And then I narrowed that down by books that I had access to, because none of you recommended me books I already own and haven't read. You all recommended me books that I don't have. So I had to check if I had them in my library, on my library app, which is BorrowBox, or on Scribd. And then I chose 5 books from that. So the first book that I picked because it was recommended to me by 4 people. And I thought, well, I definitely have to read that one then. And that is Burial Rites by Hannah Kent. So this was recommended to me by Super Groove-tastic, Nicole Reed, Han Painter, and Lotta on my Books Set in Isolated Places video, which I will put in the cards above, where I talked about how much I love books set in small communities in isolated places, particularly in cold weather. And this is also historical fiction, which obviously I love. So this is set in northern Iceland in 1829. A woman condemned to death for murdering her lover, a family forced to take her in, a priest tasked with absolving her. But all is not as it seems, and time is running out. Winter is coming, and with it the execution date. Only she can know the truth. This is Agnes's story. So because so many of you recommended this, I knew I had to pick it up. Next, I also chose The Living Mountain by Shepard, which I don't have on me currently, but will hopefully be coming into the library soon. And this was recommended to me by Laura Reads Pages on my Cozy Autumn Books recommendation video, which again, I will leave in the cards above. I wanted one of the books to be non-fiction, and I didn't get that many recommendations for non-fiction books because I don't spend that much time talking about non-fiction on this channel. But as this year one of my goals is to try and read more non-fiction, I knew I had to include a non-fiction on this in this challenge, and that led to The Living Mountain by Shepard. Then on my 10 authors I want to try video, Dancing Lawn recommended me Sing Unburied, Sing by Jessmyn Ward. This is a book that I think I had talked about wanting to read, but Dancing Lawn said it was a 5-star read and they definitely recommend it. So I have chosen this for this month as well. Jojo is 13 years old and trying to understand what it means to be a man. His mother, Leonie, is in constant conflict with herself and those around her. She is black and her children's father is white. Embattled in ways that reflect the beautiful reality of her circumstances, she wants to be a better mother, but she can't put her children above her own needs, especially her drug use. So this is very different from the other 2 that I'm reading, which is great, but I have heard great praise for this, so hopefully I will enjoy it. And then I wanted to step a little outside my comfort zone with the last 2. So the first one I just picked, which is After the Flood by Cassandra and Montag, and this was recommended to me by Kathleen C. And Kathleen C said, After the Flood is set on a boat in the future time when the earth is covered in water, and was recommended to me on my 10 book set in Remote Places video again. And because I loved The Gracekeepers by Kirsty Logan, that really spoke to me because that is also after the flood, but I think that this one might be a little more sinister. In the wake of the floods, Myra and her daughter Pearl have learned to survive. They make do, find reasons to live despite the chaos around them, find contentment. But there is a constant longing that plagues Myra that began 7 years ago when her husband Jacob took their daughter Ro and left Myra behind. When a chance encounter reveals that Ro might be within reach, Myra and Pearl pack up their lives and begin a dangerous journey to the heart of the sea, risking everything and everyone for a chance at a family that might never come again. And this also had a cover that really, really intrigued me. And then finally, I decided to pit 2 of these books against each other on my Instagram page. So Kathleen C also recommended me Raven Black by Cleaves, which is the first of a series of murder mysteries set in the Shetlands. And then Paper Not Books also recommended me The Wildwood Chronicles because I liked The Girl Who Circumnavigated Fairyland in a ship of her own making. Now, because I don't generally read either thrillers or crime novels, which is what Raven Black is, or middle grade, which is what Wildwood is, I put both of them on my Instagram with a little description of what they are and asked people to vote for them. And Raven Black won by a landslide. so I've got the audiobook of Raven Black to listen to on Scribd. It is a cold January morning and Shetland lies buried beneath a deep layer of snow. Trudging home, Fran Hunter's eye is drawn to a vivid splash of colour on the white ground, ravens circling above. It is the strangled body of her teenage neighbour Catherine Ross. As Fran opens her mouth to scream, the ravens continue their deadly dance. So this is small isolated communities and people turning on each other and the tension that can bring, which I love, but it is a thriller, which is entirely not my genre. So I'm excited to explore that one too. So that is what I will be doing over the course of this reading vlog, reading those 5 books and checking in. Hopefully you guys know exactly what I like and I will have 5 5-star books here, but we'll have to read and come back and I will tell you as we go on. So roll the next clip. Hello, so it is, you don't care what day it is, but it's the end of the first week of February and I have only read 1 book so far. I've nearly finished Raven Black and it's fine, it's fine. I like the characters, I think that they're done really well. I like how she moves from character to character really seamlessly, the way that she moves from perspective to perspective. I think she does really, really well. I keep thinking I know who it is, who did it, and then things shift and it moves. I think she's doing well with the red herrings and I can't really say for certain who it was, although maybe someone who reads more thrillers would find it more obvious. I don't know. I just don't read a lot of thrillers, but it's not very thrilling and it's just fine. Like, that's the most I can say about it. Like, yes, it's set on Shetland, but the atmosphere of that small island is not really that much. There's not a lot of setting, there's not a lot of description, so the setting, like, it matters in the sense that everybody knows each other, and it matters in the sense of some of the themes, but it doesn't matter so much in the, like, tone of the book, which is what I like when I read things set in isolated places. So it's fine, it's not going to be my favourite book, it's not a book I hate, it's just kind of okay for me. Then I'm also about 20% of the way through After the Flood by Cassandra Montag, and I don't like it so far. It started with this really descriptive bit that I felt was really overwritten, very clumsily done. I didn't think the description was very beautiful, it felt very obvious and I could see someone writing it and it felt like a teenager writing it almost, sorry. And then on top of that, after that, all the description went away and it's just become standard post-apocalyptic writing. Like, it reads almost like the Hunger Games, except very different setting, very different things that are happening, but it's very much this happened, then this happened, then this happened, then this happened. Characters stating what they think other people are thinking because it's from one perspective, but she apparently knows exactly what everyone else is thinking and everyone's motives all the time. It just isn't very strongly written, I don't think, at all, and it's really not my style. I don't care for post-apocalyptic fiction very much. It's just not for me. I'm only 20% of the way through and I'm not giving up on it yet. I'm hoping to finish it today. But we will see how well I get on with it because it's just kind of annoying me. She's kind of whiny and I'm bored. Which is not fair because she is having a very difficult life, but breeding ships, I'm just like, really? I just don't feel like, I feel like it's trying to touch on all these important themes and it's doing it in such a clumsy, obvious way that I can't be bothered. So that's where I'm at. I'm reading After the Flood and this writing is not my style. I feel like it's really clunky and over-explaining, and I'm going to read you a bit so you know what I mean by that. I felt scepticism like an itch in my spine, but when he looked up and his eyes met mine, I saw he was telling the truth. His eyes were tender and calm, like an open palm stretched out for me to take. I also saw regret in him, but a kind of half-regret, the kind of regret you have when you feel bad about doing something, but not bad enough to stop doing it. Now, she can't possibly know the depths of what he's feeling or thinking. No one's eyes are like an open palm, and I get that it's a metaphor, well, simile, but she needs to be telling me through his movements, not through just describing what he's feeling, because it's in first person and the protagonist can't know that, she's just making assumptions, and so unless it's an unreliable narrator thing and we're going to find out that it was all not true the whole way through, which the writing would still be clunky, but that would be clever, the way of showing us, even though she doesn't trust people, she actually is really bad at reading people, but I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think that her readings are going to be perfect and it's going to be like, well, nobody reads people perfectly like that, and you need to just not explain everything, over explain everything. Like, it's really frustrating and annoying, and I don't like this book. That is what I'm getting so far. It's not like a terrible book. It's better than some of the ones I read for my last challenge, but it's just not for me. I'm struggling with it. I'm 150 pages in. I'm going to persevere for the rest of tonight, but I might pick something up else up tomorrow. Okay, so I'm in my office that's not finished yet, and I'm taping up the walls for painting, but I am nearly finished after the flood, and I'm really sorry to whoever recommended this to me. I know you recommended it to me because of my Isolated Places video, but I really don't like this book. This book is not my thing at all. I mean, maybe it's just too much plot. It's a very plotty book. It's post-apocalyptic science fiction, which is just not my genre at all. But also, my God, is it rough listening to this, reading this. I've been like flipping back and forth between the book and the audiobook, and it's just overwrought simile after overwrought simile, continuing all these bad, clunky similes that are really grating on me. Everything has to have a simile. Like, she can't just let someone do something. They have to do it as if this thing, or like this thing. And it's like, fuck's sake. Sometimes you can just let the movement speak for itself. But no, she must tell us exactly what everyone is thinking all the time. And these people must be constantly aware of and naming their feelings, despite being cold and difficult people. And then there has to be these like overwrought, melancholic scenes with them together. Melodramatic, not melancholic. These over-the-top, overwrought, melodramatic scenes where they give each other like pep talks and talk. You don't know me. You never listen to me. It's just so dramatic soap opera, but at sea, and I never feel any sense of peril, like anything's going to go wrong, because she's only let you care for 3 characters, and obviously all 3 of them are going to survive. There is absolutely no, like, until at least the very end, they are all going to survive, and otherwise the plot would stop. And so I don't care about any of them because I don't see any actual sense of danger. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend this book. I'm going to finish it, but I really wouldn't recommend it. See, this is what I mean. Just said, like, I scowled at him with a childish, petulant expression. The kind of look you have when you know someone else is right and you're kind of glad about it. Why do you need to over-explain to me everyone's emotions all of the time? Just let me work it out. Like, I know I'm in her head. Everything's so over-explained to that extent. Everyone's emotions are explained with these stupid similes and these stupid descriptors. It's driving me mad. Hello, So, yesterday I finished, After the Flood. It didn't get any better. I don't like that book. 2 stars, probably. Not quite a 1 star. Nothing actually offensive in it, and, you know, I managed to finish it, so, I mean, I finished some bad books, but I don't think it quite deserves the 1 star treatment, despite the ranting about it. It's just one of those things, the overuse of similes all of the time that were really clunky, is one of those things that once you notice it once, it annoys you every time you see it, but it doesn't, the writing didn't get any worse. It's just, I noticed this thing, and now, it's like the as if in the Jojo Moyes book, my last one of these vlogs. It just bothers you. So I've started Burial Rites. I am roughly this far through, which is about 100 pages. So I'm flicking back and forth between the audiobook and the physical book. And I'm enjoying this one. I didn't like the writing to begin with. Well, I just thought it was a bit plain. It's not beautiful lyrical writing, but it's definitely growing on me over the course of the book. I mean, I'm only a third of the way in, so there's still a lot of plot to happen, but the atmosphere of the small island and the cold island and everything like that is definitely working for me. I'm starting to enjoy it, and I'm intrigued by the mystery, so that is good. So I'm going to get on with that one. I also went to the library today, picked up some of my reservations, because I'm not at work until the end of the month, because I'm on annual leave. And I picked up The Living Mountain by Shepard, so it has come in. I didn't realise how teeny small it is, which is actually really good, because it's only about 100 pages, if you exclude the introduction by Robert Macfarlane and the afterword by Jeanette Winterson. But I like Robert Macfarlane and Jeanette Winterson, so I'm definitely going to read those bits as well. But either way, tiny book, so definitely readable in one day, which is great because I had 14 books on my TBR for this month. I've read 3 books and one of them was not at all one of the books on my TBR. So we're on the 9th today. I'm definitely behind in terms of reading. I also got She Would Be King, which is one of the ones on my TBR. So that's great. Looking forward to reading that. And the other one, you'll see in my library haul at the end of the month, won't you? So don't want to spoil everything for you. Normally in these vlogs where it's a reading vlog, but I'm literally just talking about the books, I don't show you what I'm up to because it's not important for the vlog. But I am making my second ever video essay for this channel. My first one was on Pride and Prejudice, about Mrs. Bennet in Pride and Prejudice, which I'll leave in the cards above, and is now my most watched video of all time. It has like 3,000 views at the time of recording, which is crazy considering at the time of recording I have 800 subscribers. That is like a massive difference. So thank you everyone who's watched it. But I'm now working on one about Wuthering Heights, which should come up, which should be up already. So I'll leave that in the cards above if I get my shit together. But it's really funny because I've discovered that you can get 100 free articles a month on JSTOR, which I didn't think was true when I was a student. I could only use JSTOR through my university, but that's really great now because so you might be seeing a lot more video essays from me because I can actually get access to like real proper sources, not just Wikipedia. Not that my Jane Austen one has Wikipedia sources, but I'm very excited about it. So I've gone full on university. I'm all set up taking notes, and that's what my evening's going to consist of, as well as reading, of course. Yeah, I'm going to finish Burial Rites and get started on Living Mountain, and then after that it's just Jessmyn Ward, Sing Unburied Sing. So I'm hoping this week will be better than last week in terms of my enjoyment of the books I'm reading. Hello. So I have finished Burial Rites by Hannah Kent now, and I really liked it. I did. I think I'll give it about 4 stars. It is a very slow-moving, slow-paced book about a murder that has happened in Iceland, and this woman, Agnes, has been accused of murder along with another woman, Siga, and a man, Frederick. And Agnes has been put with this family because there are no prisons on Iceland. In 1825, there are no prisons, and so she is put with this family to work with them until the king in Denmark has decided to what to do, whether it goes to the Supreme Court. Basically, you kind of experience what it's like to live on a small farm in Iceland, and all of the things, like it goes very in depth into what they do, but also at the same time she's telling the story of what happened in the past, of her childhood and how she grew up, and also what led to this murder. And it's very slow paced and very based on a true story of the last person executed in Iceland in the 1820s. So yeah, it's very slow paced, slow moving. It's not my favourite book though. It's not a new favourite. I think it's 4 stars rather than 5. And I don't know what that is. It's just a sort of feeling, really. Very, very good books can get 4 stars, but I feel like I need to be obsessed with them to give something a 5 star, like to be that sort of je ne sais quoi, that's something extra that makes it perfect for me. But this book, yeah, it's really well done. I think it definitely doesn't do the problem that I've had with a lot of books recently of over-explaining everything and telling me exactly what everyone's feeling, which I hate. It's very good at doing it all through very slow, controlled movement. The writing is not lyrical, though. There's nothing quite like... There's some beautiful parts, but mostly it is very stripped back, very bare, but not in a clinical way, just in a way that reflects the atmosphere of the Icelandic farm, which I think is well done, but again, not my preference, generally speaking. Like, I enjoyed it in this book, but I guess that's why it's not my favourite, maybe, is the use of language. So I'll give it a proper roundup when I get to the end, but next I'm going to read The Living Mountain by Shepard, which is very, very short, only about 100 pages, so I should be able to finish it today. I also really want to go for a walk because I feel like we've been stuck inside, but it is actually really, really cold. It's like -3, which might not be that cold if you're Canadian or American, although having lived in Canada for a year, I would say that -3 in the UK feels like -15 in Canada because the cold is much wetter here than Ontario, where I was anyway. So obviously it gets much colder than -15 there. I remember it was -44 when I was there, but the cold here feels colder. Let's get on with reading The Living Mountain. You can tell I'm not quite with it today, but I will get back to you soon. Hello. So it has been a few days since I read anything for this vlog or talked to you. On Sunday I read Normal People for a different video, which I will leave in the cards above if you want to check that out. And so I think I talked to you about Burial Rites after I finished it. I think that was the last one I'd read. Yeah, it was. But I have been not very well, so it's Wednesday today, and I've had like horrific migraines. So I still have one right now, but it's the painkillers seem to be working for the moment. So I'm going to try and read all of this, The Living Mountain by Shepard. I have read the introduction by Robert Macfarlane, which is intriguing me. So The Living Mountain was recommended to me by Laura at Laura Reads Pages, and this is a piece of nature writing about the Cairngorms in Scotland by this woman, Shepard, who was writing in the 1940s, the tail end of the Second World War and during and just afterwards, but she didn't publish it until the 70s, and she has apparently written some novels and some poetry as well. So she was a writer of the time, and she was a woman who liked to go and walk in the Cairngorms. She was from there and she'd never lived anywhere else, although she did travel. So she knew the mountains basically really well, because she lived there all the time. And this is kind of set into 12 different parts, but as you can see, it's a very short novel. So piece of non-fiction. It's only about 100 pages long. So I'm going to get into that, and hopefully I'll finish it tonight and talk to you about it. And then tomorrow I'll read Sing Unburied Sing. And we can discuss whether you guys know what I like or not. Hello. I'm halfway through The Living Mountain now, and I meant to talk to you about it ages ago. I mean, like 2 hours ago. And I got distracted by TikTok and by singing. There's a man on TikTok who plays the piano to musical theatre songs in different keys, so I can just find all the alto songs and sing them. Very distracting. But anyway, so The Living Mountain by Shepard. I admire it. I can tell that it's beautifully written, but it feels like reading a journal article for university that I'm not quite getting. I feel stupid reading it. I can't get it at it, and my brain just keeps, I'll get to the end of a paragraph and realise that halfway through my brain started thinking about something entirely different, or just deciding what I'm gonna cook for dinner tomorrow night or something. I'm not focusing on this book, and I don't know if I've often struggled, so let's start that sentence 4 different times. Books that are written in the early to mid part of the 20th century, like post-Edwardian but pre the 70s. I don't really know. I haven't read that many like 70s and 80s novels, so I don't know how they compare. But early to mid 20th century novels, I often find I struggled with. I struggled with Fitzgerald, for example. And I don't know if it's the style of writing. The words just seem to be in the most complicated order in this book. Like, I could restructure the sentence to be so much easier to understand every single time that I drift off. That seems to be what's happened. It's like, oh my god, I am translating Catullus again. Why is the verb at the end of the sentence? So I'm struggling a lot, and like, I admire it. I want to go to the Cairngorms. I think they sound beautiful, but I'm so lost a lot of the time. This is a 100-page book. I could have finished it, except that it's taken me twice as long because I have to read every paragraph twice. I feel really not bright trying to read this book. I feel like I would like it better as an audiobook, but nobody seems to have made an audiobook of it, so I can't listen to it on audio as much as I would like to. So that is where I'm at, frustrated and angry. So I'm going to read Sing Unburied Sing because I feel like I'm not going to be too stupid for it. I'm still hoping to finish The Living Mountain, but Jesus Christ, my brain is not letting me read it. Hello, so it is Saturday, not that that matters, and I still haven't got much further with The Living Mountain. I'm about halfway through now. I got into it slightly more, but I can't seem to focus on it. But I am also but I'm hoping to finish it today. There's only 50 pages left. I should be able to do that in a day. And I'm also nearly finished Sing Unburied Sing by Jessmyn, which I didn't talk to you about, but I'm really enjoying it. I really think the writing is absolutely so beautiful. There are different voices throughout, but, well, there are only a few, but they keep coming back around, but it is, one of the voices reads like an extended prose poem. It is so incredibly beautifully done with the repetition and the choice of words. It's so poetic and beautiful. And it's a dark book. It's about imprisonment, violence, drug addiction, racism. It's really like strong. There's a lot of strong themes in it, but there's also a lot of hope and love. There is this brother-sister relationship that is just so touching and sweet, and also sad at the same time, because the brother has to be such an adult and like basically parent his 3-year-old sister, and it's sad when you think about that, but it's beautiful when you see it happening. And it's sort of talks about the history, because there's the grandfather and he's telling the story of his like youth, and so there's bits about like the 1940s, and then also I think it's pretty modern day. It doesn't give you a particular time period, but it feels pretty modern day for the rest of it, and there's elements of magical realism and ghosts and stuff as well. It's so well done. Really, there's not a lot of plot. Like there's kind of there's 2 children and the mother are going to see their father, who's just been let out of prison, and there's kind of that road trip element of it, and there are bits that happen, and then there's also the story of what happened in the past, but it's not a lot. It's not like a huge story. It's a very small, contained story with only a small cast of characters, which I love. That's my favourite thing. And it's so well done. All of these characters are so beautifully developed, and you can see them from different perspectives, and understand the complexities of them. I think it's doing a really good job of nuance and motivations, and like the flaws, but also the humanity of all the characters are so clear, and it's just really well done. I really I'm enjoying that very much. So I only have about an hour and a half left on that audiobook, so I will talk about that one as well when I finish it. So hopefully I should be able to finish both of them today, and then we can do a wrap up when I'm like done up to film tomorrow, so I'm a bit less pyjamas and mad fringe, which is what's going on right now. It's not a look, is it? So that's the plan. Hello, so it is a few days later. I think the last clip you saw of me was me crying. So I'm just going to do my roundup of all the books now. We will start with Sing Unburied Sing, which I didn't finish last. I finished The Living Mountain last, but I talked to you about this the least so far. So Sing Unburied Sing tells the story of Jojo and Leonie. Jojo is 13 and Leonie is his mother. Leonie is a drug addict and they live in Mississippi. Jojo and his sister Kayla's father is in prison, and he is being released from prison, and so they are driving up to the prison to meet him. This is a story about their family, their mum and pop, as well as which is the grandparents of Jojo and Kayla, and their mother and their father, but mostly it is their mother and that side of their family. You find out about the history of the grandfather, who had also been in this prison in the 1940s, and you find out about the history of the grandmother, who was involved in a lot of like herbal healing and hoodoo gods and things. And this is such an incredibly beautiful, really sad book that deals with race and police violence and incarceration, although the father is white in this, but when in regards to the grandfather, there's a lot of talk about incarceration, how that is linked to the history of slavery in the US. There's magical realist elements of this, a lot of gods and ghosts going on, and it's so incredibly beautifully written. The relationship between Jojo and Kayla is so moving and touching, but also sad when you consider the fact that this is a 13-year-old boy who is the most parental figure in this 3-year-old girl's life. The characters feel so real and well-rounded. I love that it's told from multiple perspectives, so that you get to see Leonie from Jojo's perspective, but also what's going on inside her head and how she's feeling at those same points in time. Leonie's chapters in particular felt like extended prose poems. They were so beautifully written. Jojo's were beautiful as well, but they were a little more simple. And it really, really got me. At the end, there's a big
climax to the book. Like, there's not a huge amount that happens. It's a very slow moving book that takes place over the course of a few days, with some very powerful incidents that happen and with flashbacks to the grandfather's past. But there's a bit at the end, old men breaking down, honestly, every time, gets me every single time. And this book was so beautiful. I can really understand why it has had so much praise. I gave it 5 stars. I absolutely love this book. So whoever it was that recommended it to me, I'll pop you up here. Thank you for recommending this, because yes, I absolutely agree. This is so beautiful, strong, wonderful, and I definitely will be picking up Jessmyn Ward's other books in the future. So then I also read The Living Mountain by Shepard. I think I just talked to you when I was about halfway through, and I was like, I can understand that this is beautiful, but it's not touching me, and I'm kind of really confused by it. I don't know if the first half of this book is more tricky and more disconnected, or if I was just in a particularly bad space at the time. I had migraines. It was tricky time for me in terms of my focus, or if I then just sort of through reading the novel fell into the way that it was written and managed to be taken along with it. But I found the second half a lot easier to read and a lot better, more engaging for me personally. The first half also deals a lot with like rocks and water, and the second half deals more with like plants and animals and humans, and maybe that's partly why it becomes more engaging for me, because I'm not a geologist. But I found the second half a lot more engaging than the first half, and I was really understanding the beauty of the writing. I still think I'd give it 3 stars because of the difficulty that I had with the beginning of the book, which is not a reflection on the quality of the writing or the strength of it. It's more to do with my enjoyment and my own personal preference in regards to nature writing. This is about the Cairngorms, and that's about it. And I prefer nature writing that is more modern, I suppose, because I prefer it to be talking about things like climate change, human interaction with the climate, things like deforestation and depopulation of animals. Things like that are what I want to get from my nature writing. I prefer sort of a more conservation writing, and though there is an element of that in this, as it was written in 1944, it's very different from what my preference is in regards to nature writing. I can understand why it was recommended to me. I think it was Laura from Laura Reads Pages who recommended it. As I was reading Robert Macfarlane at the time, he says this is his favourite nature book of all time. And I can see, like, for someone like Robert Macfarlane, who is so immersed in that world, why that would be, like, the pinnacle for him. But for me, it's just not where my preference lies. There was not enough human or story in it, for me personally, which is what I prefer with nature writing. Then I read, I'm kind of going backwards in order, Burial Rites by Hannah Kent, which I have talked to you about, which is set in 1829 in Iceland, about the last person to face the death penalty in Iceland, and it is a story about murder and about what it was like to live in rural Iceland in the 1820s, and it's about gender, and it is really good. I really enjoyed it. I gave this one 4 stars, as I mentioned earlier. I thought that the writing was not quite to the level that for my favourite books, like not quite lyrical or beautiful enough. It wasn't doing that much with the writing, but that the starkness of the writing was really helped to give you the feeling of both the nature of Iceland, the winter of Iceland, that kind of stark bleakness, but also the tone of the book was really well engaged by that kind of simple, stark writing, because the tone was very dark and bleak in this book, and so I think that worked well for this. And I thought that the story was good, and I thought that all the characters felt really realistic, really real people, and I enjoyed that. And compared to the books that I had been reading before this, I really appreciated what it did with character, because that is something that I have been finding a struggle in a lot of the books that I have been reading lately. There have not been as well developed characters. I've been being told everything all the time, which is a pet peeve of mine when it comes to books. So then before that, I read After the Flood by Cassandra Montag, and that was the worst book that I read for this video. I gave that book 2 stars, and I think that was being generous. I think it was a recommendation on my books set in isolated places video, particularly. I don't think the commenter mentioned this, but I can see how it would be kind of related to to the Gracekeepers by Kirsty Logan, because both are set in a post-apocalyptic world where there has been a big flood and there's just small pieces of land that people live on, as well as people living on boats. But the Gracekeepers is very myth-inspired, very there's whimsy to it, but it's kind of a melancholy whimsy, which I love that tone. And, you know, it's about a travelling circus and a girl with webbed feet, and it's very sort of ethereal in the writing style. After the Flood was very post-apocalyptic, like standard, what you'd expect from a dystopia writing style, very plotty, with characters who were very one-dimensional, and the writing I really didn't like. I mean, I've talked about it a lot in this video, so you know how I felt, but yeah, I think that the reason that one didn't work for me is because whilst the premise was similar to a book that I liked, and it was about a small cast of characters, it wasn't my preference at all for how I like writing, and I don't care about plot. Like, I really... Obviously, that's not to say that I hate books with plots in, but books that are focused on the plot to the detriment of the characters and the writing, that's just not going to do it for me. And I know for some people, like, they want things to happen, and they don't really like it when things don't happen. They find it really boring. So I'm just the opposite of that. And this book it didn't have anything in it for me. It felt very predictable and very over the top. And I just didn't like it. And then saying that about the plot, the first book that I read was Raven Black by Cleeves, which I thought the writing was, again, good, but not anything special. It wasn't lyrical, it wasn't beautiful, but it was not distracting. So it didn't push itself into focus either in a good way or a bad way, which can be fine for a book. I don't mind that. But this book I gave 3 stars, and I think it is a mystery. It's a murder. There has been a murder in Shetland, and I won't do the Taggart accent, but it is a Scottish murder book, and there's been a murder of this young girl, and they're trying to work out who done it, and it's a small island community, again, which I think was why it was recommended to me, because I love small, bleak, cold islands. But like, this was about the characters, and it was kind of developing those characters, but I felt like there were too many, and they were very much archetypes. It didn't feel like there was enough meat for me to go into. And also, I've yet to find a thriller that I really find page-turning or really captures me. I'm not much of a thriller reader. I don't often read them. But the thrillers that I have read, I've either found really obvious, really boring, or I've enjoyed, but not for that thrilling reason. Like My Sister the Serial Killer, which was really good psychological exploration, but you know what's happening the whole time. There's no, like, mystery to work out or anything like that. And I don't know if thrillers just aren't for me, and I would never find one that would capture me in that way. But Raven Black was definitely a very slow-moving book. It was not a book with pace or anything to capture you. Like, there is a plot, and that is what is moving the book on. But we're kind of also exploring the way that gender is performed and on this island, and also wealth and class through these characters. But it felt kind of surface level at the same time. It didn't feel like it really delved into that in a very strong way. I think it was just fine for me. I didn't hate it, but I don't really feel any compulsion to read any more of them. I can see how it would work well as a, like, procedural. I can see why Shetland was made into a TV programme, but which I haven't seen. I just don't think that sort of thing really interests me that much. What have we learned from me reading books that you recommended me? Well, we got a 2-star, a 3-star, we got a 2-star, 2 to 3 stars, a 4-star, and a 5-star. So that's a full range, almost, of books. I didn't DNF any of them, but I nearly DNF'd after the Flood. I just felt like I needed to keep going for you guys. So I guess... So my point in this is, it's not that you guys are bad at recommending me books, you are bad at recommending books or anything like that. It's more that, how have I explained what my taste is? And have I explained my taste in a way that means you guys can recommend me a good book? Now, of course, I've only been doing this for a year, so that's not that long a time for you to have got to know my taste. And most of you haven't even been around that long. So it's kind of interesting to see, if I did this again in another year after being on YouTube for another year, if you guys would have got more accurate. And also, as I mentioned at the beginning, there were 39 recommendations and I only read 5 of them. So I only picked 5 books here, and maybe in the other 34 books there would have been like 4 more 5 stars, who knows. So it's kind of hard to say, but I can say that just because a book is set in an isolated place doesn't mean I will love it. Just because a book is blurbed by someone that I really enjoy the writing of and is a genre that I want to get into doesn't mean that I will love it. I'm still not sure what I love about thrillers, and I really, really don't like dystopia. It would need to be something else to get me to enjoy a dystopia, but I don't like the traditional way that a dystopia is written. I still love literary magical realist fiction. That's not a surprise to anyone though. So please let me know in the comments what you thought of this. Did you think that I was going to like these books when I picked them right at the beginning, or have your understanding of my taste changed? Are there any books that you would really like me to try and read if I redid this video again? Any of your thoughts I would love to know in the comments down below. Thank you for watching. Please remember to like this video if you liked it, and to subscribe, because I put out new videos every Wednesday, Friday and Sunday, and so I will see you again very, very soon. Bye bye!